So Mark and Lori, we just got this ruling into our newsroom in the last hour. Now, last week, the attorneys for the Lyles estate filed a motion claiming that one of the officers who shot and killed Charleena Lyles committed perjury. They claimed that officer Jason Anderson gave false testimony about where he was when he fired his weapon at Lyles. Well, today a judge denied that claim. In her ruling, Judge Julie Spector wrote in part, plaintiff's counsel, Ms. Kohler and Mr. Moore, intentionally filed a baseless motion, lacking any support from factual record or existing law, attacking the character and credibility of defendant officer Jason Anderson at the cost of his right to a fair trial on the anniversary of Ms. Lyles' death as a mean of garnering media attention. The judge pointed out that the plaintiff's attorneys notified the media about the new motion before notifying opposing counsel. The ruling also points out that the video expert the plaintiffs used did not actually qualify as a video expert, and that the video he used is not reliable or credible expert evidence. So as part of the ruling, the judge has ordered the plaintiff's attorneys to pay the defendants reasonable fees and costs associated with the filing of the motion. Now, we don't know how much money that could be. Judge Spector also ordered Ms. Kohler and Mr. Moore to re-review the court's civil rules and the rules of professional conduct. And we did hear from the plaintiff's attorneys on this. They said that they strongly disagree and they will request reconsideration. Mark?